Hey everyone, Killian from Worksighted here with another episode of Tech Riffs, and I am very excited because today for the first time I'm actually having with me on the show somebody from outside of our organization who's going to give us some of his industry level expertise in the area of cybersecurity. So this is Jason Crow, and you are from Miller Johnson. Thank you so much for coming aboard. So happy to have you.
Great to be here, Killian. Thank you.
So you specialize in cybersecurity law.
That's right.
And that's awesome. So having to do with like if there's a data breach and something like that, and that's actually what I want to talk about today. We've kind of talked about it from the technical side in past episodes of Tech Riffs, and so I think there's some really good information out there on that. But I want to hear from the legal side. When you are working with your clients, what are some things that you want to make sure that they know when figuring out their cybersecurity stuff from a legal standpoint?
Well, when clients call, the first thing I always tell them is you need a cybersecurity policy and procedure in place. And it really depends on what industry you're in as to what type of cybersecurity policy and procedure you have. For instance, in healthcare, you're going to have a HIPAA privacy policy and procedure. In banking, you're going to have a totally different one that's governed by a whole nother set of rules. But for the most part at Miller Johnson, we get a lot of calls from clients that are outside of the healthcare space, outside of the banking space, and they say, okay, if I'm just a manufacturer, for instance, what do I do to protect myself? And I say, well, cybersecurity is a high-tech problem, but there's really several low-tech solutions, and it starts with policies and procedures.
So when you say policies and procedures, are there some that are kind of, doesn't matter what industry you're in, they're like standard that you want to make sure that everybody has in place initially?
Absolutely. So you really want to start with a password policy and procedure, right? Yep. And that sounds super basic and almost like, why did I need to call my attorney to find that out, right?
It's important, and we talk about it all the time, even in past episodes, but yeah.
Well, so we just had a major data breach happen last week, and we did a response, and the way that the attacker got in was through a dormant admin account where the username was admin and the password was backup. That took down their whole system for 2 or 3 days. And if you had a good policy and procedure in place that dealt with passwords, that dealt with document retention and destruction, and you followed those, that may have not happened. So, in your policies and procedures, you're going to want to have a data breach response policy and procedure. And in that response policy, it'll lay out who to call first. Who's my first call when I feel like I have something that appears to be a data breach? And, of course, Miller Johnson, we would say, call your in-house counsel. Right. And, the reason we say that in the first instance is you can really mitigate your risk later on if those communications, those initial communications where you're saying the worst things about this potentially terrible incident, that can be wrapped up in attorney-client privilege and attorney work product protection. And if it's all laid out in that policy, you'll know what to do.
Knowing who to get a hold of is important.
That's right. And it brings up, I think, the other most important low-tech solution to cybersecurity, which is educating and training your employees.
Absolutely.
So you can create the best policy and procedure that you've ever created, but they're not worth anything unless you train on those. And so if you get into the IT department and the human resources department and you train to your data breach response policy, the moment that comes up, they're going to know what to do, and they're going to have the document in front of them, and they're going to understand what to do.
So, Jason, having dealt with as many cybersecurity breaches as you have, what do you see as some of the potential costs or some of the costs that companies incur whenever they do have something go wrong?
Well, this is a huge issue because the cost of a data breach is hard to quantify sometimes, and it's not immediately apparent. So, oftentimes, what I tell my clients is I say, okay, on average, a data breach from our perspective in West Michigan for our clients the cost can range from $300,000 to $500,000. And what you have in those costs are calling people like me to discuss what your data breach notification responsibilities are, calling Worksighted to work with containing the breach. Right. From an IT perspective and a technical perspective. And then you have IT costs related with remediation. Yeah. So, what do I do to harden my network, to change passwords, to update my firewalls. And then there's a lot of soft costs. So the organization can really be shut down focusing on the data breach for 2 or 3 days. And so what we recommend to clients is to work hard to find the best cyber risk insurance you can get. Really right now, business interruption could be your biggest cost.
Sure.
Like if you're a manufacturing company and you supply the automakers, if you have a major data breach, your line could go down for a half a day, your production line, or 2 days. What is the cost of that? And if you get business interruption insurance long before the data breach happens, that insurance can be collectible. And if you've got policies and procedures in place, that can also increase the collectability of your cyber risk insurance. And then if you put all the pieces together, you have the right policy, you educate your employees, and you follow those policies and procedures utilizing these small steps to prevent a big problem.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show today, kind of sharing your expertise.
Thank you, Killian. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, and that's a wrap for us. So you can learn more about this and other cool IT tips and tricks by going to www.worksighted.com/techriffs.